Welcome to my YouTube channel, where we will be discussing on the baby boom and the path to population collapse. The end of World War II led to a massive surge in birth rates worldwide, giving rise to the largest generation in history, the baby boomers. Soldiers returned home, filled with patriotic spirit, and in countries like the United States, this era coincided with what many considered the golden age of capitalism. Housing was affordable, the free market was booming with new consumer goods, jobs provided stability, and starting a family seemed like the natural next step. Of course, this paints an overly nostalgic picture, but whether or not it's entirely accurate is irrelevant today. We now face soaring housing costs, an overconsumption of disposable consumer goods, and increasing job insecurity. Governments worldwide are now asking a pressing question: how do we encourage people to have more children? Childcare costs have skyrocketed, now exceeding rent for many working families, and are estimated to drain over $122 billion from the economy annually. Some nations, like South Korea, are responding by offering childcare allowances. Starting next year, South Korean parents of newborns will receive around $530 per month. Despite this, the biggest issue in the next 20 years won't be overpopulation but population collapse, a rapid, uncontrolled decline in birth rates that could have serious consequences for all of us planning to live beyond the next few decades. However, it's crucial to distinguish between those genuinely concerned about the implications of a declining population and those primarily worried about a dwindling labor force. These perspectives lead to very different solutions, or even raise the question of whether this should be seen as a problem at all. The truth behind the baby boom: the post-war baby boom wasn't just a result of soldiers returning home and starting families. This is evident when looking at history. There was no similar baby boom after World War I. In fact, after 1918, birth rates dropped significantly due to the Spanish flu, reaching levels comparable to those of today. This challenges the popular media narrative that today's fertility crisis is a uniquely modern problem. To understand why, we need to examine two key figures. 1. Fertility rate, the average number of children born per woman. The global fertility rate has experienced a significant decline from 2000 to 2025. In 2000, the average number of births per woman worldwide was approximately 2.7. By 2023, this figure had decreased to around 2.3 births per woman. This downward trend is projected to continue, with forecasts suggesting a further decline in the coming decades. The decline in fertility rates is a global phenomenon, but the pace and extent vary by region, too. Replacement rate, the number of children each woman must have to maintain the population level. Currently, the replacement rate in high-income countries like the US is about 2.1 children per woman. The second accounts for the roughly equal number of men and women, while the 0.1 factor compensates for child mortality. While global fertility rates get a lot of attention, fewer people realize that the replacement rate itself has also declined. In the 1920s, women needed to have over 3 children on average just to sustain the population, due to higher infant mortality rates. This means that despite modern anxieties over declining birth rates, the situation was actually worse in the past. Another popular explanation for the baby boom is that post-war prosperity made starting a family easier. However, this theory doesn't hold up when looking at history. The Roaring Twenties were also a period of economic boom, yet birth rates remained low. In contrast, the baby boom actually started during the Great Depression of the 1930s, a time of severe economic hardship. It temporarily paused during World War II but resumed afterward. The real cause of birth rate fluctuations, if it wasn't economic growth, modern contraceptives, women joining the workforce, urbanization, or shifting family values, then what actually caused the baby boom? And more importantly, could the same factor help reverse today's declining birth rates? One of the most consistent factors influencing birth rates is income inequality. Economist Thomas Piketty, in his book Capital in the 21st Century, compiled over a century's worth of data on income inequality. Interestingly, when you invert the income inequality data, it aligns almost perfectly with fertility rates. When people feel financially secure, when they have social mobility and can provide a good quality of life, they tend to have more children. Policies like the New Deal during the Great Depression and the GI Bill after World War II significantly reduced income inequality, leading to a boom in births. However, governments and corporations today want to avoid a population collapse, but not at the cost of reducing inequality. Instead, they're looking for ways to encourage people to have more children without giving them too much economic stability. The Industrial Revolution, cities, and birth rate decline. For most of human history, population growth was stagnant. Archaeological records suggest that from the dawn of civilization to the Industrial Revolution, the average global population growth rate was just 0.4% per generation. Even major setbacks like the Black Plague, which wiped out a quarter to half of Europe's population, didn't drastically change long-term growth trends. Then came the Industrial Revolution, which sparked a feedback loop: more food resources, more people, more labor, more innovation, even more food resources. Medical and nutritional advancements also extended lifespans, further accelerating global population growth. As a result, an estimated 7% of all humans who have ever lived are alive today. Before we proceed, please like, comment and subscribe to this channel. However, despite its economic benefits, the Industrial Revolution also introduced challenges that mirror today's issues. Early industrial cities like London were plagued with poor living conditions, leading to high mortality rates. Until the 20th century, London's population relied on constant migration from rural areas to sustain itself, a trend that still persists in modern cities. Even today, urban centers remain extremely expensive, making large families impractical. This has created a stark divide. The wealthy can afford large families, the poor often have more children due to lack of access to contraception. The middle class struggles the most, as raising multiple children is financially unfeasible. Can remote work reverse the decline? One potential solution to population collapse is remote work. The COVID-19 pandemic initially caused a sharp dip in birth rates due to economic uncertainty. However, as more dual-income households transitioned to working from home, birth rates not only rebounded but exceeded expectations. This suggests that when parents don't need to commute to work, they are more likely to have children, especially if they can live in affordable, family-friendly communities away from expensive urban centers. However, major corporations are now pushing for a return to office work, citing various business reasons. But the reality is clear: if businesses refuse to adopt policies that promote financial security or work flexibility, they will struggle to find future workers and consumers. Ironically, many CEOs demanding a return to the office don't actually go to the office themselves. This raises important questions about corporate priorities and whether their concerns about productivity outweigh the broader societal issue of a shrinking workforce. Final thoughts: for centuries, economic security and social mobility have been key drivers of fertility rates. However, current policies focus more on short-term labor supply rather than addressing the real root causes. The ongoing struggle between economic forces, government policies, and personal choices will determine whether we reverse the trend or simply accept a shrinking population as the new reality. We must work together to promote policies that support families and encourage childbearing, while also recognizing the importance of individual voices and freedoms. By doing so, we can ensure a sustainable future for our societies and our planet. Thank you for tuning in to the Everyday Money Wisdom channel. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you and see you in our next video.